A massive alien war council watches live holo footage of a single human battleship drifting calmly into their heavily fortified star sector. The ship's hull displays a glowing smiling face pattern, harmless looking, almost mocking. The silence in the command chamber is suffocating. Someone whispers, "Why is it smiling?" The galactic war room of the Verkus Dominion was built to intimidate. Towering ceilings etched with war victories, holographic banners of crushed empires flickering in red and gold, and a polished obsidian table stretching the length of a warship's hull. Around it sat the highest-ranking minds of the Dominion, veterans of centuries of conquest. They had faced every known predator, dismantled civilizations, and humiliated countless species. Nothing surprised them anymore. Or so they thought. "High Command," rasped Admiral Korith, his scaled claws clicking against the table as he zoomed in the holographic feed. "Unidentified vessel on the edge of Sector 9G. Size: insignificant. Fleet count: 1. A ripple of amusement cracked the solemn atmosphere. "One ship," hissed General Vera, her mandibles twitching in scorn. "Against us? Either brave or stupid." "Perhaps both," added strategist Molthur, his gelatinous form undulating lazily in its containment shell. "Send a frigate. Pulverize it. I tire of trivialities." The laughter around the chamber was smug, indulgent. But it stopped when the hologram zoomed closer. The ship was smiling. Not literally, but the forward hull plating curved into an eerie crescent, illuminated by pale blue lights that resembled teeth. It was designed, intentionally, to look like a grin. The room went silent. "That is not standard engineering," murmured Minister Kithos, feathers flattening uneasily. Admiral Korith tapped a claw. "Analysis identifies it as Terran origin. Human design." The words hung in the air like a blade. For a heartbeat, no one moved. Even in a chamber that had dictated genocides, the word human carried a peculiar chill. Humans were extinct, or so the archives claimed. A species broken a century ago, their fleets scattered, their homeworld burned. Yet here was one of their ships, alive, whole, and smiling. "Impossible," scoffed Vera, though her voice wavered. Human remnants were destroyed. Their defiance was memorable, interrupted Kithos softly. Molthur's gelatinous body quivered uneasily. "One ship is no threat. Unless it wishes to be seen." The war room lights dimmed as the transmission activated. The smiling Terran ship sent a signal. Direct, unencrypted. The screen flickered, and there he was. A human. Not in tattered rags or broken armor like the records had shown, but in a pressed black uniform, neat and deliberate. His hair was combed, his posture perfect. He looked like someone who had all the time in the world and was mildly amused that the galaxy had gathered to watch him. "Good evening," the man said politely, voice smooth as silk. "Apologies for interrupting your, what do you call it? Strategic gloating? I'm Captain Elias Mercer of the Terran Expeditionary Command." His smile matched the ship's, warm, polite, but wrong. It carried the weight of someone who already knew more than he should. Vera snarled. "State your purpose before I order your vessel atomized." Mercer tilted his head. "Atomized. Strong word. I admire the commitment. But before you start pressing buttons, perhaps you should ask yourself why I'm smiling." Silence. No one wanted to admit the question gnawed at them. Mercer continued cheerfully. "See, humans have a peculiar habit. We never walk into a room uninvited. If we're here, just one ship, so dreadfully vulnerable, it's because we wanted to be here. We wanted you to see us." He leaned forward. "And the smile? That's just a courtesy. Makes first contact less awkward. You dare mock us." Vera slammed her claws against the table. Mercer's eyes flicked to her. He smiled wider, but his words cut cold. "General, in every species I've met, the loudest voice in the room is usually the first to die. Humans call it Darwin's audition process." A few commanders shifted uncomfortably. The human had just insulted her, politely, casually, with a metaphor they barely understood yet instinctively recognized as threatening. Admiral Corith tried a different approach. "What do you want, Captain Mercer?" Mercer shrugged lightly. "Nothing extraordinary. Just a chat. A polite warning, perhaps. You've been expanding aggressively, haven't you? Crushing borders, swallowing worlds. Very ambitious. Very unsustainable." Minister Kithos leaned forward, feathers trembling. "And humans care about sustainability now? Your species burned entire forests to roast meat." Mercer chuckled softly. "Fair point. But you'll find we also learned. We adapt. We always adapt. It's what makes us dangerous. You think we're extinct because you only saw the fires. You never saw what rose from the ashes." A hush fell again. Molther finally spoke, slow and uneasy. "If you are warning us, then what is your leverage?" "You are one ship." Mercer leaned back in his chair. "One ship is plenty, if it's the right one." As if on cue, the holographic display glitched. The smiling human ship shimmered, and for a moment, hundreds of faint outlines appeared around it, like shadows lurking in folded space. Massive shapes. Dark, indistinguishable, but there. Then the image snapped back. Only one ship remained. Corith's claws dug into the obsidian table. "Cloaking," he hissed. Mercer's smile never faltered. "Oh, Admiral, you've seen nothing yet." The war room buzzed with hushed panic, but Mercer lifted a hand. "Relax. I'm not here to start a war tonight. Think of me as your reminder that humans were never conquered, only underestimated." "Lies." Vera barked. "We erased your fleets." Mercer hummed thoughtfully. "And yet, here I am. Funny how history works. The galaxy loves to write eulogies for us, but somehow we keep attending the funerals." The insult was so subtle it took a moment for them to process. Mercer had just declared they were the ones dying. Kithos whispered, voice barely audible, "What trap have they set?" Mercer leaned close to the feed, eyes gleaming. "Oh, Minister, if you have to ask, it's already sprung." The transmission cut. For a long moment, the war room sat in silence, staring at the smiling ship drifting just outside their reach. Vera finally growled, "Destroy it." "No," Corith rasped, scales paling. "Not yet. If we strike too soon, we may hit something we cannot see." The obsidian table felt colder. The Dominion High Command, conquerors of galaxies, were frozen. One human ship had reduced them to silence. And it was smiling. The High Command Warchamber was a cathedral of authority, each tier lined with generals, admirals, and envoys from dozens of species. They towered, floated, or coiled in their stations, eyes fixed on the shimmering projection at the center. A single, pale blue icon pulsed there. One human vessel, parked on the edge of their most secure system. It was smiling. Well, not literally. But the ship's profile was curved, its prow elongated in a way that, to alien perception, resembled a wide grin. The humans had named it Polaris, and the mere fact it was stationary, brazenly lit, weapons offline, was like a predator lounging in the middle of a pasture, unbothered. Admiral Kurok of the Valen clicked his mandibles. "Explain why it does not move. Explain why it does not flee. One ship does not stare down 1,000 unless—" "Unless it knows something we don't," interrupted Marshal Drock of the Brax Horde, his voice gravel and thunder. "Humans bluff. They bluff even when cornered. But a bluff cannot hold against fire. Let me burn it." "Burn it," scoffed Minister Vale of the Trell, a species of scaled scholars. Her frills shimmered with nervous light. "You think the humans didn't expect that? A lone vessel parks itself at our heart world, smiling, waiting. You rush in with fleets? That's how they fight, provoke, bait, spring." The chamber grew uneasy. Even those who despised humanity had to admit it. Humans had a way of turning mockery into strategy. The High Chancellor rapped a clawed hand on the dais. Silence spread like frost. Bring them in, he ordered. If the human wishes to speak, let us hear their arrogance before we erase them. The chamber doors slid open, and in walked a single human. Not an armored marine. Not a diplomat swaddled in ceremonial robes. Just a man in a tailored dark suit, crisp as midnight. He carried no weapon, only a leather case, and he moved with the calm ease of someone who had already measured the room and found it lacking. His name, according to the file that had been frantically circulated minutes earlier, was Commander Elias Ward, tactician, strategist, liaison, though the human registry attached one odd note, recommended to never underestimate. Smiles often. Ward bowed, precisely, politely, as if entering a board meeting, not the center of galactic military power. Gentle beings, he said, voice warm, almost friendly. Thank you for agreeing to host me on such short notice. I do hope the parking job wasn't inconvenient. Gasps. Snarls. A few chittering laughs. Parking job? That was how he referred to brazenly docking one ship at the Empire's jugular? Admiral Kurok's mandibles clicked in fury. Human, you stand on the knife's edge of annihilation. Speak plainly. What is your purpose here? Ward adjusted his cufflinks, unhurried. Plainly? To save you all an awful lot of paperwork. War declarations, fleet deployments, casualty rosters, they pile up fast. I thought I'd come by in person, cut through the bureaucracy. Some aliens chuckled, thinking it was a joke. Others stared harder, realizing he wasn't joking at all. Marshal Drock leaned forward, eyes burning. One ship, human. One. Surrounded by armadas. What makes you think you live long enough to finish a sentence? Ward's smile tilted, sharp yet still polite. Math. The word hung there, absurdly small compared to the roar of the chamber. Math. Vale repeated, frills twitching. Yes, Ward said. He opened his leather case, drew out a thin tablet, and flicked it alive. Symbols danced across the chamber hollow. Star maps, fleet movements, logistical chains. You have 1,000 ships. Impressive. But 1,000 requires supply, coordination, trust. I ran the numbers. Your comms latency, your refueling cycles, your species. Let's call them differences of temperament. I give you 4 hours before cracks appear in your lines. He tapped again. A schematic of Polaris expanded. Me? I need 4 minutes. The chamber hissed. Not fear yet. Confusion, irritation, disbelief. The Chancellor leaned forward, voice low. What exactly are you implying, Commander? Ward slid the tablet back into his case and closed it with a soft click. Nothing. Not a thing. I'm simply sharing my little hobby. Some people do crosswords. I run scenarios. He smiled again, a perfect diplomat smile that didn't reach the eyes. And in every scenario, you lose. That was the crack. Small but real. The chamber was no longer united in contempt, it was divided, between those convinced the human was bluffing, and those suddenly very unsure. Vale whispered, if he wanted war, why warn us? Drock growled, because humans play with food. Ward clasped his hands behind his back. You assume I'm here to fight. I'm not. I'm here to ask a simple question. He paused, letting silence swell. Why are you so nervous about one ship? The words stabbed. Because it was true. Entire armadas hovered on red alert outside, every cannon pointed at Polaris. Yet the human vessel drifted unshielded, its captain standing in their chamber as if he owned it. It wasn't logical. It wasn't safe. And that made it terrifying. The Chancellor finally spoke. What do you want, human? Ward's eyes gleamed, though his voice stayed calm, courteous. Only cooperation. Earth has business in this sector. I thought it polite to introduce myself before things become messy. Messy? Kurok spat. Ward tilted his head. You know how humans are with mess. We clean it up, eventually. But it's never pretty. The chamber's translators struggled to soften the edge in his tone, but the message rang clear: polite, smiling, threat. Outside, on the fleet monitors, something strange began happening. The Polaris's running lights flickered, not erratically, but in rhythm. A pulse. A beat. Almost like laughter. Fleet officers scrambled, unsure whether it was code, a weapon, or simply mockery. Inside the chamber, Ward simply waited, hands folded, as if daring them to call his bluff. No one moved. By the end of that session, the High Command was no closer to agreement. Some argued to strike immediately, to shatter the human arrogance with fire. Others counseled restraint, wary of the trap unseen. But one fact remained, chilling in its simplicity. One human ship had walked into the Empire's heart. And every admiral, every general, every scholar in that chamber had realized they were no longer thinking of humanity as a minor nuisance. They were thinking of predators who smiled while sharpening knives. And Ward was still smiling. The war room aboard the alien dreadnought smelled of ozone and nervous sweat. Dozens of high-ranking officers crowded around the central holotable, their scales, feathers, and carapaces glinting in the harsh light. The projection displayed a single ship, tiny compared to the gathered fleet, but its blinking icon glowed red. "Status?" demanded Lord Strategist Ktharn, his mandibles clicking in frustration. "Unchanged, High Strategist," a young officer stammered. The human vessel remained stationary at the edge of the system. No transmissions except the smile. That cursed image. The humans hadn't sent coordinates, codes, or demands. They'd simply broadcast a looped video of their captain, a polite-looking man with calm eyes and that infuriating, steady grin. The human in question. Captain Elias Ward leaned back in his chair aboard the ISS Magnitude. He had tea in his hand, Earl Grey, steaming just enough to fog the viewport. Outside, countless alien ships hung in formation, bristling with enough firepower to sterilize continents. "Quite the welcoming party," Elias murmured, stirring sugar into his cup. His second-in-command, Lieutenant Ramos, paced nervously. "They've got at least 3 dreadnoughts, 2 carrier swarms, and gods know how many cruisers. Sir, with all due respect, if we stick around, we're paced." Elias sipped, then smiled. "If we leave, we're prey. You know how predators decide what to hunt, Ramos." Ramos groaned. "Don't say it. They look for who runs first." The lieutenant muttered something in Spanish that would have made a priest faint, but Elias didn't flinch. His eyes stayed locked on the alien armada. Come. Patient. Waiting. Alien fractures. Back in the alien command chamber, voices rose into a cacophony. "Destroy it now," barked General Vorak of the Creel. His people were wolfish, their fur bristling with every word. The longer it sits there, the more dangerous it becomes. "Dangerous?" hissed Minister Cal, a feathered Zari diplomat. "It is one ship against thousands. Perhaps it is merely posturing." "Posturing does not frighten a coalition of empires," Vorak snarled. "Then why," Cal shot back, "are you sweating?" The room quieted. Every pair of eyes turned back to the human's frozen smile. The unease was growing like mold, quiet, spreading, impossible to clean away. "Back on the Magnitude." "Sir," Ramos said, arms crossed, "this is insane. We can't take them all." "No," Elias admitted. "But they don't know that." He stood, finally setting the teacup aside. His voice lost its softness, shifting into the tone of a chess master placing the final piece. "Here's the trick, Lieutenant. They don't fear our guns. They fear the fact we're still here. They don't know why. That means every second we sit, every smile I flash, every sip of tea I take, it eats at them. Doubt, suspicion, paranoia. You're playing poker with an entire empire." "Exactly." Elias allowed himself another calm smile. "And they don't know how to read our face." The first probe. In orbit, the alien fleet adjusted. A single cruiser broke formation, edging closer to the human vessel. Its scanners flared, pinging across Elias's hull. Ramos stiffened. They're testing us. Elias tapped the console and activated a narrowband transmission. His voice went out calm, cheerful, almost mocking. Lovely ship you've got there. Careful with those scanners, though. Push too hard and, well, he let the silence stretch before finishing, sometimes wires cross in dangerous ways. The alien cruiser faltered, halting mid-course. Inside their command deck, the Creel pilot cursed. What does he mean by that? Does he have traps? Mines? A cloaked fleet? None could answer. The cruiser retreated. Breaking point. Enough. General Vorak slammed a clawed fist onto the holotable, making sparks jump. This is psychological warfare. He toys with us. Yes, whispered Cal, feathers ruffling. And it is working. Kthar's mandibles twitched. We have 3 options: attack, retreat, or wait. Each path risks disaster. The silence that followed was worse than shouting. Leaders of dozens of species, all once proud conquerors, now hesitated in the face of one polite man smiling from a single bridge. Elias turns the screw. On board the Magnitude, Elias leaned forward, voice low. Patch me through again, Lieutenant. Wideband this time. Ramos hesitated but obeyed. Across the enemy fleet, every screen flickered. Every command console, every comms channel, every holotable lit with one image: Elias Ward's calm, human face. Good evening, Elias said, as if greeting neighbors over a fence. I couldn't help but notice the impressive gathering outside my window. Very thoughtful of you. His smile widened just slightly. I imagine you're wondering why there's only one of us. Why I'm smiling. Why I haven't blinked. A pause. Then, softly, almost warmly, perhaps it's because one ship is all it takes. The broadcast cut. Alien panic. The room erupted in chaos. What did he mean? Is he bluffing? Is Earth hiding a fleet nearby? No, worse. He wants us to believe we've already lost. Their arguments spiraled, voices clashing like blades. The smile lingered in their minds, burning holes in logic. No one could shake it. Kthon finally hissed, mandibles clicking. This human is no captain. He is a weapon. And if we misstep once, we will not recover. The smile holds. Back aboard the Magnitude, Ramos exhaled shakily. You know, sir, he said, when you said this plan involved bluffing, I thought you meant cards or a negotiation. Not staring down half the galaxy with a teacup. Elias chuckled, pouring himself a refill. Cards, negotiations, fleets, it's all the same. People fold when they believe you've already won. And if they call the bluff? Elias sipped, savoring the taste. Then his eyes turned cold, the humor gone for just a breath. Then they learn why humanity never bluffs without teeth. The words hung in the air like a storm about to break. And outside, the single human ship remained, calm, smiling, unflinching, as an empire trembled. The silence of the command chamber was heavier than the void outside. Every alien commander present, scaled, feathered, or crystalline, watched the lone human vessel hovering before their amassed fleets. One ship, sleek and understated, facing thousands of warships with the calmness of a fisherman idling at a pond. And it smiled. Or rather, its captain did. Captain Elias Vance sat in the command chair of the Odyssey, posture loose, expression unreadable. His tone remained conversational, as if the fate of civilizations was no more pressing than a dinner reservation. Quite the turnout, he said over the open channel, his voice carrying a lazy humor. I'd offer hors d'oeuvres, but we didn't plan on company this large. The High Command, a council of species known for ruling through intimidation, exchanged uneasy glances. To them, humans were recent entrants to the galactic stage, tolerated at best, dismissed at worst. But this man was speaking as though they were the ones under examination. Admiral Kethrix of the Zorathian scaled brood leaned forward, mandibles clicking with irritation. Human. You mock the High Command by arriving alone. Do you expect mercy? Vance smiled thinly. Not mercy. Just honesty. Both are rare currencies in your markets. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. It was subtle, almost too polite, but the insult lingered. Pressure mounts. The High Command had deployed more than enough firepower to reduce Earth, or any single species, to ash. Yet something about the man's calm unnerved them. He wasn't pleading, bargaining, or stalling. He was waiting. Grand Strategist Lorivi of the Thren turned her crystalline head, light refracting through her body. You claim to speak for humanity. Tell us why we should not erase your world for daring to resist. Because, Vance replied, still relaxed, you've already lost. You just haven't noticed yet. The chamber erupted in disbelief. Voices clashed, languages overlapping in anger. The idea that one human ship had already won was absurd. Explain, demanded High Chancellor Drovak, whose species towered with armored frames like walking fortresses. Vance tilted his head. Ever notice how humans smile in the strangest places? Funerals, war zones, even when holding bad cards at a poker table. We smile because we're not showing you happiness. We're showing teeth. And right now, you should be asking why the humans are smiling. A turn of fear. For the first time, hesitation spread among the High Command. Their analysts reported nothing unusual. No hidden fleets, no energy readings, no reinforcements. The lone ship was exactly what it seemed, ordinary by galactic standards. Yet unease coiled in their minds. Vance leaned forward, his eyes sharp. You've been looking in the wrong place. We never planned to win this in open battle. That's your strength, not ours. We let you gather here, draw your fleets away from your borders, concentrate your power in one very visible point. Because humans, well, we're fond of traps. He tapped a control. Behind him, a star map bloomed in holographic light. Red markers appeared, not in the system they occupied, but across dozens of homeworlds belonging to the High Command species. The chamber froze. The reveal. While you were busy surrounding me, Vance said softly, our real fleet wasn't here. It was already behind you. Sleeper ships, cloaked and waiting for centuries in forgotten orbits. Ghost fleets no one bothered to check, because who would assume humanity had been planning this long before first contact? Gasps rippled through the council. Data feeds confirmed it. Their own sensors lit up as ships decloaked across the galaxy. Massive human warships, dark and silent until now, emerged from hiding like wolves stepping from the Trilene. Vance's voice lowered, polite but edged with iron. Your people are hostages. Your fleets here are irrelevant. Fire on this ship, and by the time my heart stops beating, your core worlds will be embers. The smiling predator. The High Command struggled to process the scale of it. Humanity, dismissed as primitive, had quietly seeded the galaxy with hidden arsenals. Not in bold confrontation, but through patience, misdirection, and audacity. Admiral Kethrix slammed a clawed hand on the table. Bluff. No species could. A new feed cut in, images of a Zorathian colony world, where human ships hovered above the atmosphere. Cities had already gone dark. Civilian channels begged for mercy. The Admiral fell silent. Vance finally stood, straightening his jacket as though adjusting for a formal dinner. His tone never rose, never grew harsh, but carried the weight of inevitability. Understand this. Humanity didn't come to negotiate terms. We came to show you what happens when apex predators put on polite faces and are underestimated. You looked at our smiles and saw weakness. You should have seen warning signs. He paused, letting silence work like a blade. We don't start fights we can't finish. And when we finish, there's nothing left to bury. The turning point. The High Command, proud rulers of half the galaxy, found themselves cornered not by overwhelming firepower in this chamber, but by invisible nooses tightening around their throats back home. Lorivi, crystalline voice trembling, broke the silence. What do you want? Vance's expression softened, almost kindly. Stability. Cooperation. A galaxy where my people aren't treated like pests. In exchange, you'll keep your thrones, your fleets, your little empires. Just with one adjustment. Which is? Drovak asked warily. You'll smile when humans enter the room. The irony hung sharp in the chamber. The same gesture they once mocked now symbolized dominance. The final twist. The Odyssey remained motionless, still alone, still smiling. But across the galaxy, human fleets tightened their grip. Entire civilizations stood on the edge of collapse, hostages without ever seeing the trigger pulled. Vance let out a quiet chuckle, the sound warm but cutting. Here's the thing about traps. By the time you realize you're in one, the teeth have already closed. He ended the transmission. The chamber plunged into silence, the kind that doesn't end quickly. For the first time in millennia, the High Command, accustomed to bending the galaxy to its will, was forced to reckon with a single smiling human and the species that had prepared for this day like hunters waiting in the dark. And across the void, humanity's smile grew sharper.